What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of Sports Rants with Abby and friends. Of course, I'm Abby. We got Fly Guy in the house. Missing Sean tonight. He'll be back next week. And you know what? Let's just dive right into it, guy. It's been a crazy last couple of days. And obviously, NFL free agency has started. It's funny. The deadline. It was supposed to start today at 4 p.m. But the legal tampering period opened up on Monday, and literally Monday, boom, everyone was signed. You were behind the curve if you were barely making moves today. So here's how we're going to start, guy, because obviously I want to make sure we talk about our two teams. So I'm going to have you talk about, because it'll kind of lead into other teams too. So let's start with Miami and some of the transactions that they've made. We'll move to the Jets, and then hopefully shift through some of the other big stories around the NFL. Sound good?
Yep, sounds good to me.
All right, where do you want to start? I mean, do you want to start with the guy on the banner, good old Tua getting released?
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Let's do it.
It's been about damn time that this move has been made. It's been a long time in the making. I think he had his fair shot in Miami, and it just didn't work. Quite honestly, I would have done it a year or two before, and I wouldn't have given him such a large contract. But I get it. They had a philosophy. 2023, that offense was at their peak, I would say. Especially, I think that was it the season they scored 70, so that you couldn't really change too much. It would have looked bad. Like, oh, you're getting rid of the quarterback that partly was responsible for like this great offense, this new thing. But as time went on, McDaniel and Tua became very predictable, kind of one-trick pony, like had to be short, quick passes, not really taking chances down the field unless it was like extremely wide open. But Tua's deep ball wasn't that great. Like, sure, he had fast receivers, but okay. Like you needed a perfect set of surroundings around him in order to succeed. And unfortunately he didn't have that, and he couldn't play in the cold weather. So I want to see how he does in Atlanta, because they're the ones that are taking a flyer on him. You know, Michael Penix has his issues with injuries too, and they just released Kirk Cousins. So, man, I think they need a reliable guy in the room, because who are you? If Tua and Penix are both hurt, who's the next in line?
Exactly. And you know what? I'm not surprised. We all knew he was going to find another starting job elsewhere. And I think Atlanta just kind of made sense there. He's not moving too far from Miami there. And again, you mentioned Penix's injuries over and over. And Atlanta, they're coming up on something. They're building that defense over there, which I do like. And he's got some weapons over there in Atlanta as well. So he's not working with nothing. But I'm glad you mentioned the cold weather games, because I know Tua at one point was kind of linked to New York. And I'm like, dude, he has lost all 7 games that he's played in 40-degree weather and below. No, thank you. So I'm glad that he went to Atlanta. I think it kind of made sense with Penix there. Obviously, he can help show Penix the ropes too. Now, I want to ask you, obviously, you guys signed a quarterback who I kind of saw all along, and it kind of made sense. So you guys signed Malik Willis, which was who everybody wanted. Let's be honest. His name was going around. I'm sure anybody would have taken him. But you guys signed Malik Willis, 3 years, $67.5 million, 45 guaranteed. So, Guy, how you feeling about that?
I mean, I think it's a great move. I think Malik Willis is going to have his opportunity to show what he has. Obviously, by getting the Packers, basically our head coach and GM coming from Green Bay, and a lot of the other parts of the coaching staff, they've seen him in practice. They've seen him behind the scenes. They obviously knew that this is the guy that they wanted. And in his 6 games, I guess, sample size where he started or actually played, He has been very good. Hasn't turned the ball over, and he's a dual threat. So he'll be in a system where he's comfortable too. So it's not like he has to learn an extravagant offense, a Mike McDaniel offense. He's going to be in a good spot for him to develop and show what he has. I know that with the Packers, especially against the Bears, that one game where he came in, he really, when they came back and won that game, he was a big reason why they did. And you could argue, oh, do you give a quarterback that hasn't played that many games this much money? Well, you're projecting, right? I mean, if Daniel Jones can make what he makes, I think this is a gamble worth taking, especially both of our teams have been starving for good quarterback play for a long time. So this is like a calculated risk, and I think it's a good signing.
Right. I do too. I do too for you guys. And there's a very high upside to this as well. And that Green Bay system, we've seen so many good quarterbacks come out of that system and learn a lot from just waiting and sitting back for like a year or whatnot. So it's going to be his time to shine. So that'll be exciting. Let me ask before I move on to Minkah Fitzpatrick, do you like others let me ask, has Miami made any other signings? Are there any other signings that you're enthusiastic about right now?
I mean, they haven't really. A lot of our signings have just been trying to fill in gaps. We've been trying to shed payroll more than anything, and we're kind of taking a page out of Seattle's book a couple years ago, like when they got rid of Russell Wilson. So you had to eat that. Well, Denver Broncos they released him and they had to eat that contract, and they bounced back pretty well. So even if this doesn't work out with Willis, you could still be in prime position to draft a quarterback in this quarterback rich draft and have him wait a year or two the Packer way. Right. So I think there's a plan in place. So at the very least, I'm optimistic, but no, we signed, Doltrich, I think his name is.
Yeah, I haven't seen too much. But again, I can't keep up with everything. There's something happening like every single minute at this point. But that was a major thing, obviously, coming from Miami. So
100%.
I don't know. Free agency's just kicking off, so I'm sure there's gonna be some more moves coming. Miami's gonna make some moves, basically. So I want to start before we transition to the Jets. I know we got Johnny Boy in here saying, Gino, we back. Trust me, we are going to get into that. And I'm sure I have an opinion that people aren't going to like. So I want to start with you first, because one of the first news we got on Monday was a Minkah Fitzpatrick trade. And of course, Minkah Fitzpatrick, now a New York Jet, signed a 3-year, $40 million deal, got a brand new deal from the New York Jets. Let me ask just from your perspective before I share mine, what is your overall thoughts on Minkah going to the Jets?
I think you got a solid, safety. We had to unload him, for lack of a better word, because of salary cap restrictions. Like we had to shed payroll. Trading it to the Jets wasn't ideal, but the Dolphins weren't in a spot to have a lot of leverage anyway. So everybody knows they're kind of in cap hell. So they're not really going to get full value for trades like that. But, I think you're getting a leader, which is something that was lacking on the defensive side, and a local kid. He's a Jersey boy. So I think he's going to fit in nicely. He knows the pressures of the media and the fans and what they're going to, the expectations that are going to be put on him. And I think instantly he gives credibility when he walks in the room.
Right. And I'm glad you made all of those points, because that's exactly what I was thinking. I know a lot of people are down in terms of like the interceptions and maybe him not being as much of a playmaker, but the defense has had a lack of identity in terms of the New York Jets. And we're missing that veteran leadership on the defense. And based on all the moves the New York Jets have made, that's kind of with the direction they're going. They're looking for that veteran leadership there. And so all I'll say with Minka is I was very happy about that. One interception is better than the 0 interceptions the New York Jets had last year, is all I'm going to say. But I think paired with some of the younger guys is going to be good for the New York Jets in the long run. I'm not going to get into all of I did a whole video on it, and I'm not going to get into all of the signings for the New York Jets, but overall, I am very enthusiastic, at least the first day of all the signings. Just some very good defensive talent, some very good defensive depth. Joseph Osai is one of them. On Yamada, some more veteran leadership there. Of course, why am I blanking on his name? Davis. Why I'm blanking on his name. The linebacker we brought back. Sorry. I don't know why
I
I'm
forgot
blanking
his
on his
first name, but yes.
Yes. Someone in here
right?
someone here will mention it. But again, just love that veteran leadership there. And then adding Nashawn Wright from the Chicago Bears as well. The only thing with him is I do like that deal. I do. However, the amount of touchdowns, according to PFF, he's had scored on him is 8, and he's given up some long passes before too. But again, these are all just we just need some playmakers, okay? And I'm fine with the moves that they've been making on the defensive side of the ball, which they needed to invest in. You lost Sauce, you lost Quinnen, you lost Quincy. Jamie Sherwood's been up in the air, and who knows what's going on with him. So I am very happy. But obviously, I'm going to start with you first. The New York Jets signed a quarterback, bringing back good old Geno Smith, doing a late pick swap trade with the Raiders there, bringing in Geno. And the Raiders are going to be eating the majority of that contract. But from someone who's not a New York Jets fan and just outside perspective, and of course you're in the division as well, what are your overall thoughts about it?
Honestly, I'm not real high on the move, to be honest with you. I think you could have went in a lot of different directions in this. To settle for Geno Smith, and even if the Raiders are eating a lot of the contract, you are trying to, exercise these demons of this culture that you're trying to erase. He is a reminder of the past failures of the Jets organization. I don't know why you would bring him back, but I get it. The Raiders got the first overall pick with Geno Smith as the quarterback. Maybe you're trying to get that same thing where he's going to suck so bad that, hey, we're going to get the first pick again. Geno Smith's team will get the first pick again, and that'll put you in a prime position to, get the heir apparent to Geno Smith.
And I think you have said it in the way I've been trying to say it this whole time. We're trying to exercise those demons. So why are you bringing the ghost of Christmas past back over here? Man. And I trust me, I have been absolutely getting shredded in the comments in terms of Geno Smith, because to be honest, I'm not that fond of it. I think I made it very known that I wanted Kyler Murray. I'm not saying Kyler Murray was going to come here, but I already got shredded for that comment. I then moved on. Okay, let's be more realistic with the Carson Wentz. Doesn't look like we're going that way either. And then we saw Willis get taken. We saw, what's his name? Mariota got re-signed again. And again, these QB pickings were slim. So I get it, but I'm just not overly enthusiastic about this reunion. I'm not saying Geno can't sling the ball. Obviously, in 2023, there was a point where he was a Pro Bowler and he got paid like a 3-year, almost $100 million contract extension. And I was very happy for him. And then, of course, the Raiders last year, they had the worst O-line in the NFL by far. He threw 19 TDs, 17 interceptions. And I think when I made the Geno video today, I was more in I hadn't seen the signings yet for the O-line. So I guess I feel a little better. But at the time I was recording it, hey, we have a hole. You're just going to stick him behind the same I'm not saying they're equally as bad, but bad O-line is bad O-line at the end of the day. You're just moving in from a bad O-line to another bad O-line and expecting something different. The New York Jets O-line, it's not as bad, but they are also very inconsistent. We have some young guys on there that's still trying to like gel together and whatnot. But literally, I think I had to ask ChatGPT, how do I word this in the way I'm trying to, because I literally couldn't get the words. Like I went through the whole emotions. Like I was like, what are we doing? Then it was like, and then I just naturally grew to like, I hate it. But the problem is he's here and I'm a Jets fan. I want us to win at the end of the day. I'll get over it. But right now I just need to like feel my little feelings before I come around to it. But all I can say is that I hope we need to sign another veteran quarterback. I need there to be some QB competition in the room. Do not give the little keys to, Geno Smith all of a sudden. But, I just, like I said, I don't understand fans right now. There's no in the middle. It's either like yours. I don't know why people are jumping for joy, but it's just, there's no in the middle. It's either you're jumping for joy or you're really down bad. And I mean, I'm kind of more in the middle at this point, but I was really down bad when I saw the news yesterday. Like, that's why I didn't make a video, because I'm not trying to come off all negative, but that's how I feel. That's how I feel. Let me read the comments in here. It's better than Carson Wentz. No, it's not, because Carson Wentz played in Frank Reich's system. We're arguing like shit over shit. Like, that is no way to say it. I hate to like curse on here, but like shit versus shit. This is terrible. And Gino will get us Archie. Aaron Glenn right now could be thinking less about Archie Manning when your ass is on the line. You got to win some goddamn football games. And, Sean's not here, but he brought it up about the tanking and whatnot. I'm not on board with that. There's plenty of QBs next year. If we get a top 10 pick, you're going to get a QB. You know what I mean? And we have enough draft capital. If you want to trade up for Archie or whoever, you can go ahead and do that. But I'm not going to be like, oh, punt the season away because now we have Geno and don't try and win games and get, a quarterback next year. I'm not in that.
Well, realistically, though, what's your expectations with Geno as the quarterback?
Exactly. I don't know. I don't even know if I think this team will be competitive. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I don't even think this team will be competitive at all. And you know what? On paper, the roster looks a little better right now, but it's not anything where I'm like, oh, we're going to get over that over under 5.5 wins that we have that's scheduled right now. Anyways, enough about the Jets before I get all riled up. Since we're both AFC East fans of AFC East teams, I want to talk really quickly about, are you surprised or interested at all in any of the moves that the Bills or the Patriots have been making?
I mean, yeah. I was interested to see that Bradley Chubb went to the Bills. That defense needed a little help across the board. They've been banged up. They've been a little long in the tooth. So I think, another guy to pressure the quarterback on the other side is going to help them a lot. But, anything else that really moves the needle? Not really. Didn't the Patriots get a receiver or no?
Yeah, I thought they did. Yeah, they may have. I'm telling you something every 2 seconds. I'm more interested in, though, the Patriots have been investing in their O-line, which I actually think is very good. And I am happy, except for one of the moves that they've been making, because obviously the Patriots did end up signing AVT, of course, a New York Jet. Hate to see him go to a division rival, but I was a big fan of having him back. A lot of fans weren't with me, and watch him now have like an all-pro season with the Patriots. That's exactly how this is going to go. I've seen this narrative too many times, but I mean, the Patriots, we saw how their O-line did kind of throughout the playoffs and everything. So I think they addressed kind of those needs there. They also signed Tommy DeVito to like a 2-year deal as well. So found that to be a little interesting. But yeah, in terms of the Bills, I'm with you there. Nothing to like move the needle and be like, oh, off the charts, Oh, Romeo Doubs.
Romeo Doubs, that's it.
We knew we were missing something.
Yeah. No, that was a pretty good signing for them too.
Mm-hmm. I think
especially
so too.
With Diggs leaving getting jettisoned off the team with his baggage off the field stuff, but
That was the right move for them. Not gonna
yeah.
lie. They needed to get rid of all that off-season trash. You know what I mean? He just had a hell of a 2025 over there. Cardi B be dissing him on the tour now. I think it's like pretty Miss Drama tour or something like that. And I'm like,
Oh,
she be saying something new at every show. I'm loving it.
oh man.
All right. Let's get into all the other transactions that have happened. Holy hell, there's a lot. I'm gonna ask, where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, you could start right at the top. I think the Rams have been very active.
Okay.
That I think them, I forgot what day it was, but I think that kind of set the tone when they traded for McDuffie and addressed the need for them at cornerback. And they're going all in. They're trying to win now with at least while they have Stafford as a quarterback. They have great receivers, and they still might address a receiver in the draft just because they can, but I think they're going to go offensive line or something like that, or they're in a good spot because they were not far off from being a champion, and getting a top corner for that team who's well coached and has just been one of the better organizations over the last decade or so. They've been in the mix and they've gotten better. They've taken chances. They're calculated risks. When they traded for Jalen Ramsey, a few years ago, it kind of reminds me of that, where they kind of solidify that secondary. And against Seattle, you're going to need that with their firepower that they have. JSN requires a lot of attention, so this goes into that direction of trying to at least take him away from a game.
Right. And I was interested to have Sean here today because I wanted him to see, because the Rams just made huge moves. I mean, they made McDuffie the highest paid cornerback in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And they also got Jalen Watson as well, signed him in a 3-year $51 million deal as well. So they're just absolutely stacked.
Yeah. 100%.
And I would have liked to have seen Sean's perspective, simply because he's a fan of another NFC West opponent there. But yeah, and I'm glad he pointed out like the Jalen Ramsey aspect of it too, because I was thinking the same thing. When you're making these huge moves, like you're going all in, like I feel like they know they can win another championship in the next 1 or 2 years. And the thing is, they can. Look at how it just is unfortunate that like they got eliminated by another like divisional opponent. You know what I mean? I think if it was anyone else, they would have easily been in the Super Bowl. I had them in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So yeah, that literally set the tone for everything there. Where I wanted to start is Max Crosby. So we had news that he was going to the Ravens. Then last night, it's funny, I'm at the gym, I'm on the treadmill, and I get a ding, and it's like, no longer going, it's canceled. And I'm like, I'm trying to run, and I'm over here like, hold on, wait. I'm reading the comments, but I could not believe that. Obviously, it's because we were in that weird time frame that the Ravens could go ahead and back out of that deal. The ones made today after 4 p.m., no backing out. You're committed for sure. But what did you think of all of that? That was crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, that trade stood, they had 2 first-round picks going back to the Raiders, so like they paid a big price for a premier, defensive end, and you're there trying to solidify that defense who kind of lost their swagger a little bit. The guy kind of fit the personality of what a Raven is, especially that defense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that would have been really interesting to see how that kind of evolved. But Yeah, I mean, I guess they saw something in the physical or the injury history that gave them trepidation and said, "Look, hold up. We're giving up all these picks, which are assets." And of course, if you're the Raiders, you're like, "Okay, I'll take it. We're in rebuild mode." But the Ravens kind of need to get a little younger in certain spots too. So, you know, you keep that pick and maybe get an offensive lineman and kind of help Lamar out a little bit and protecting him because he can't run around forever either. But pivoting to getting another top defensive end, wasn't bad either. I think, yeah, you pay the money, keep the draft picks, and you see where it goes. The stats are kind of similar. I think we all would agree that Max Crosby is probably the better player of the two,
Yeah.
but the stats are kind of comparable though. Like he's more of a pass rush guy. Max Crosby is good in the run game against the run too. So like he could play three downs. The other guy's more of a specialist, but he gets a lot of sacks though. So it's like, okay, I think that was a good pivot. Like if you're not getting Max Crosby and you end up with was it Hendrickson or
Yeah.
I think that's a great fallback option.
Either way, Joe Burrow praying for his life out there. Now he's going to have a former teammate trying to come after him as well. And you're right. Crosby, I think, fit a little more of the identity that the Baltimore defense has always had. But again, a good backup I don't even want to use that word backup. A good comparable option is Hendrickson. And we talked about with the Jets and the Patriots just here a second ago, you like to see them steal somebody from the division too, because it's then you just have a little more insight, a little bit. I think you're kind of more familiar with people's games when you're coming from a divisional opponent there as well. So that was huge news. I couldn't believe that happened. I'm very interested now to see what happens with Crosby. And let me remind me because I'm blanking on it for a second because I know he was on IR at the end of the year. What was his injury? I forget.
I'm trying to remember. I think it was a
I don't
knee
want
or
to say
something.
knee or shoulder or something, but I
Yeah.
thought he had towards the end of the year wanted to come back, and I thought I read reports that he was actually pissed off that they ended up putting him on IR, and I'm like, dude, they may have done you a favor at this point because
Yeah.
to be so bad where you fail like a physical is very concerning there. I'm not saying he's not going to get picked up, but that was very interesting. And then you saw Crosby on the, I don't know if you saw the image of him on the plane.
Uh-huh.
God, these guys. All right. Gosh, we have so much to talk about. Okay. Let's pivot real quick over to Indy. Because Indy made several moves, but Alec Pierce, 4-year, 116 mil. And then they also, Danny Dimes finding a way to get paid. Him and Kirk Cousins, their agents deserve all the money that they're getting paid. They're getting paid because these guys managed to get huge contracts for a whole lot of accolades of nothing. But Danny Dimes, 2 years, $88 million from the Colts. Overall thoughts, Guy?
I don't understand it, to be honest with you. Just for the fact that he's a injury risk. I think he's still injured right now and he's trying to come back from injury. So it's like you're investing a lot in a guy that you just don't know if he's one hit away or one other major injury away from being a shell of himself. Uh, he relies on his feet a lot to run. He's a mobile quarterback. I mean, when he's healthy, he's okay. He's pretty good. Am I gonna try to pay him like a top quarterback? Absolutely not. And I think the Colts really had no other choice here. What's the other alternative? Kyler Murray, but at least Daniel Jones showed at the very least in the beginning of the season that he had some success. The the Colts looked okay. They looked like world beaters in that first like 8 games or so. So I think they're banking that if he's healthy, he gets back to that level. But I seen enough of him to think that that's not the case, and this is an overpay. And I don't know why they are getting away with giving him such a big contract, to be honest.
No, and same here. And it's very weird because it seems like Indy is well, and we saw it last year because we saw how good they were doing until that injury and to Danny Jones. And they're in an all-in type of mentality here too. And I'm like, you went too all in though on the wrong people. Like
Yeah.
we just talked about the Rams. You're going in on proven people. You know what I mean? And then here you are with Danny Jones, and that is the position that you clearly needed, and that was holding you over the whole season because when you didn't have it no more, it all went away. And so I guess I appreciate a little bit to some extent them having that mentality, but again, it's just a weird investment to me. That's too much. And I agree, you're right. A little bit of an overpay, but maybe they wanted to guarantee that, hey, we're going to have him here because they saw how slim pickings the margin was.
Yeah.
But I don't like it either. I don't like the money. I'm not saying I don't like them signing him. I don't like the money.
Right. And that's the thing too, is that sure, has he had a moderate success with them? Yes. But you did go all in by trading for Sauce Gardner too. And with that in mind, you kind of take away some of those first round picks that you could have used on a quarterback in this upcoming draft. But now you're saying we're good. We got Daniel Jones.
Right. Literally. And it seems like there's nothing else wrong with their roster. Every single team in the NFL, I don't even care if you're Seattle, you can improve in some way. Speaking of Seattle, Kenneth Walker, what a perfect fit over there in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think about that trade? That was one of the first ones that happened, I think, on Monday.
Yeah, no, I think that was a great move. I think he kind of knew that Seattle wasn't going to pay him what he was looking for, and Kansas City needed a running back, needed an upgrade at that position, and yeah, Kenneth Walker had a very impressive season. So I think in that situation, he's going to have a pretty good year.
I'm excited for him.
Yeah, I mean, when that team gets healthy, you're going to see the Chiefs, going on all cylinders, and I think that's going to be where you're like, okay, getting Kenneth Walker was a really good move because Mahomes really hasn't had a steady running back over the years. Like Pacheco was good, but Kenneth Walker is almost Pro Bowl level, right? Like he's a top running back in the league. And sure, he split carries this past season, but when need be, he could be a go-to running back, I think, and that's a good move for them.
Yeah.
And him.
Yeah, and I think Pacheco got picked up already too.
Yeah, he went to the Lions.
There we go. Yeah, I was like, you went somewhere, but all right, let's get into the Bucks made a couple of moves. They re-signed K-Dot in their tight end. They signed Kenneth Gainwell to a 2-year, $14 million deal. And they got Alex Anzalone from the Lions as well. Some good veteran leadership for them there. 2 years, $17 million. Do you think that moves the needle much for the Bucks?
Not really. And I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I think the Bucks are a pretty good team, but with how they fell off towards the end of the season, and don't get me wrong, they let Mike Evans walk too, and he got picked up by San Francisco. So I guess they are trying to go in a different direction, at least philosophically. I want to see how Baker Mayfield looks without, his favorite target. Maybe it's better because now he can spread the ball around and not lock in. And he had an uptick in interceptions this past season, so maybe spreading the ball around, maybe drafting a wide receiver just to, give you.
Oh no, guy fell off. All right, he'll be back on. Hi Harrison, by the way, don't worry. We are going to get into it with the Panthers, I promise, because they made some huge signings too that you got to be overly excited about. You are back. I had a mini panic attack and I'm like, I guess I'll keep it going and talk about all these myself. I didn't get very far. We're gonna get into the Panthers here in a second, obviously speaking about the Bucks, but I want to go back because you mentioned Mike Evans with the Niners. I love that move, by the way. I don't know why so many people I've seen are not impressed by it. Mike Evans is washed, all of that mumbo jumbo. I think this is a good move for San Francisco,
Yeah,
to be very honest. And he's gonna fit just right well into that system right there. I can tell you that much. All
100%.
right.
And they had to get rid of Ayuk, so I guess
Mm-hmm.
they needed that wide receiver, depth and at least another target. He's going to fit in pretty nicely with them.
Yeah. And Ayuk, I think, getting picked up by the Commanders, I want to say, on kind of a 1 year prove it deal. I could be wrong, but I know he got picked up. So let's move on. Let's stay with that division for a second. Let's talk about the Panthers because the Panthers made a splash, let me tell you, and they made a splash on defense. Jalen Phillips from the Eagles, 4 year, $120 million. And then also signing Devin Lloyd to a 3 year, $45 million deal. Guy, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I know Jalen Phillips pretty well. He was a Dolphin for X amount of years before we traded him to Philly last year. I'm happy for him because I know that he had a bad injury like 2 years ago, and for him to come back and get the bag is great on him in his career. He's definitely a guy that can get pressure on the quarterback. He's a playmaker, so like he's a dynamic defensive player. Um, Kind of needed that in Carolina. Their defense kind of left a lot to be desired. They had to play in a lot of shootouts, and that puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback and the offense to put up a lot of points. Now maybe getting somebody that can get to the quarterback. Now you could force some turnovers and play with shorter fields and kind of you know lower the expectations a little bit for your team to have to score 30 plus points every single game, especially that team that was young. And don't get me wrong, they did very well, and they definitely surprised me in a good way. But defense was definitely their need, and I think they're going to still add to that defense.
Oh, I think so too. I just think this is one of many. They're definitely going to add some more depth there. Obviously, their offense very young with McMillan and Leggett over there. So yeah, defense was definitely their. They need to address the positional needs on defense for sure. I want to start because again we had a lot going on, but let's kind of get more generalized for a second here. Is there a team that made a lot of moves that you like?
I mean, I would say that there's there's a team that made interesting moves. I think the New York Giants getting Isaiah Likely was a nice pickup, especially with that offense. Uh, you know, they're giving their young quarterback Jackson Dart a lot of weapons now. So with Neighbors and Scadaboo coming back off an injury and Likely getting the opportunity to be a number one, I want to see how he is as a number one tight end. You know, not having to share, let's say, the duties with Mark Andrews, but to be an actual focal point. For a young mobile quarterback, you need that tight end safety net. You know, of course, Malik Neighbors is a fantastic receiver, but you also need somebody that's reliable and getting those tough catches in the middle of the field. I think they addressed a big need, and they signed the punter to the biggest contract for a punter in history. So that was pretty interesting. But they've been notoriously bad on special teams, so I know that they needed to shore up that. So I think that they set themselves up for a nice off season into the beginning of the next season, and it's like Harbaugh bringing his guys in too.
And they also signed what is it, Tremaine Edmonds?
Oh yes,
as well. Yeah, which I thought was very good for them as well. They definitely, you're right. They definitely made some interesting moves. They were a team that instantly came to mind. I'll also tell you right now, the Tennessee Titans and what Robert Saleh got going on over there is very interesting. Robert Saleh brought a lot of his boys back over there. They signed JFM, John Franklin Myers. You obviously got Jermaine Johnson now. I also found out earlier today they signed former New York Jet Solomon Thomas as well. He's, I think, coming from the Cowboys, I believe. But yeah, the Titans making a lot of interesting moves. Wan'Dale Robinson as well. Yeah, they're looking kind of stacked over there. Alontae Taylor and Cordell Flott as well. I believe that's how you say his last name. And Trubisky. They added some QB depth there too. But obviously familiar with him too, because obviously like being in an AFC's team like with the Bills and whatnot. So
yep.
Yeah, that's going to be a team to kind of watch out for there. They've definitely, I like them. I like the moves the Titans have made. I also like some of the moves that the Raiders have made as well. What do you think of Lindenbaum going over to the Raiders?
I mean, they needed help with the offensive line, right? Like that, you addressed the need, and that to me that was a no-brainer. One of your moves had to be getting somebody to anchor the offensive line. And yeah, you could do it in the draft too, but you needed a proven vet that at least if you have some young guys around you, you could start to build that chemistry that all good offensive lines have. Because sometimes you'll see a team come out of nowhere and just have a good offensive line because they built the chemistry together. And damn, do the Raiders need it, Mendoza's going to need it. Genty's going to need it. Bowers is going to need it because it has a trickle effect. When you don't have time, when you can't get any push, every level of your offense, whether you're passing it or running it, is suffers.
No, and I think that was a great move. They got that out of the way very early as well. And again, if you're looking to bring in someone like Fernando Mendoza, that's the best way to help him be set up for success, is making sure he's protected. And of course, making sure you got weapons over there as well. Let's see. We got Panthers, Bears. Bears added Kobe Bryant, and they also added Devin Bush as well. I love that depth, the depth that they've added on the defense with the Bears. What are your overall thoughts on any of the moves the Bears have made?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. This is a team in a city that really finds their identity in defense. They've always been a defensive organization. So you kind of needed that to help out with their offense, because I think the offense carried them a lot. Caleb Williams specifically definitely helped change the narrative with the Bills, as now they're kind of like this exciting offensive team where they could come back, make plays out of nothing, right? Like they've never had that element, but their defense forced turnovers, but they didn't really have a defense that could really stop or shut you down. So, they needed the depth, and I think that's a step in the right direction for them too.
Speaking of defense, Cowboys have been also making some moves on defense, which they absolutely needed to.
Yep.
Cowboys got Rashad Gary, I believe, over from Green Bay. And they also signed someone that I was actually interested in. They signed safety Jalen Thompson as well from the Arizona Cardinals. any overall thoughts about the Cowboys? I mean, they've made it very known since the trade for why am I blanking on his name all of a sudden? It's like I forget all these Jets players all of a sudden. Big man up front. Williams. There we go.
Quinnen, yeah.
Quinnen. I was like Quincy Quinnen. There we go. They're out of my mind now because I don't want to think about that traumatic ass days.
No, but to your point, they needed to solidify that defense as well, right? Another kind of like they're just an offense first team. They needed help. I think if they had maybe an average defense, they make the playoffs and they kind of make a not a run, but they could have won a first round game maybe. You know, they at least could score with the best of the teams in the league. So we're looking to see if they could have some type of resemblance of a good defense where they could at least give that offense a little bit of a break. You know,
Right.
like Dak had to just, you know, pull games out of his ass, you know, just to, yeah, he got stats, but he didn't get the stats that really matter, which is wins. So I think they improve in that aspect, though.
Yeah. We got Johnny Boy in the comment here. Miami Dolphins about to be dead last? Question mark. I don't even want to think about that. Okay.
And it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, there's so much to be done. And with how terrible the Jets have been, I wouldn't be surprised if it was them at this point. You know what I mean? I think the Jets in Miami are just in very interesting situations at this point. It seems like maybe for the next year, I don't want to say this on the record for sure yet, but you know, maybe for the next year at least, you're looking at the Patriots and the Bills probably sitting more at the top there, which is fine. I mean, the Jets got to wait till 2027 to get their quarterback of the future anyways. I want to pick your brain about something. So let's go to the Steelers for a second. Steelers get Michael Pittman. They also get Jamel Dean. And then I want to get more your opinion, though. What do you think what do you think the Steelers are going to do at quarterback? So a lot of it's going to depend on, of course, what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. Yeah. And you know, he's just going to have to go on his annual ayahuasca retreat and then come back and let us know. But should he decide to hang it up, what route or direction do you see the Steelers going?
I mean, they're definitely going to need somebody to fill the gap, right? Even if it's like a bridge quarterback, you know, Kyler Murray's still out there. You could take a flyer on him.
Not for long. I think he has a meeting with the Vikings tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's why like the Aaron Rodgers thing is interesting because you know he takes his sweet time when it comes to am I retiring? Am I coming back? You know, doing exactly what Brett Favre was doing when he was a Packer. But
the Packer way.
That's the Packer way. But you know, you still have a guy like Kirk Cousins that's available. You know, at the very least, he'll be all right for a couple games. But, you know, you could also see if you could lure a guy like Derek Carr back out of retirement, where you at least you know what you're getting from a guy like him. And he might be intrigued to play for a playoff spot. I know he had a lot of wear and tear. You know, another thing is you could try to see if there's anybody available in the trade market. I'm not saying Russell Wilson or anything like that. They've been there, done that. But maybe a Jameis Winston, if he becomes available. I think he's still signed with the Giants for a year.
Right, he is.
But, I mean, his ability to just, you know, sling the ball, you know, he gives you a chance, but I don't know. I think that defense is old. I think that's what's going to hurt them. You're going to need a guy that's going to be able to control that offense and control the game. I don't know if you could do much better than Aaron Rodgers, to be honest with you, at this point in the offseason.
Quite frankly, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come back. You know what I mean? I think he wants to play with McCarthy there, to be honest. And then I think their backup is Howard, who they drafted, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'd be interested into seeing him playing. I liked him coming out of Ohio State. I had interest in him going to the Jets. Of course, I see why he ended up in Pittsburgh. I actually think that's a good fit. For him too. But it's funny. Johnny Boy said if we had Rodgers right now, we would literally still be waiting in limbo. But when it came time to be his end, Aaron Glenn was like, "You ain't gonna be in limbo. We're gonna give you the boot in 15 minutes. Goodbye. Fly out here on your own dime." Question for Guy. Did you watch the Love is Blind reunion? Johnny Boy, don't spoil it for me.
Yeah.
I'm like 50. I was watching it right before I got on. I'm about 15 minutes in. So don't spoil it for me.
I mean, my answer is no, but that's just because I've been in other stuff right now. You can see.
Mason Rudolph. I think Howard is third. I wanted the Jets to trade for Howard. See, and I'm glad I'm not the only one on that boat because I was interested in that too. Well, Johnny Boy's about to watch it for you guys, so you'll probably hear about it here in the chat. Johnny Boy, it gets like really good already with like 10 minutes in, by the way. All right, let me see. So I want to talk about Atlanta for a second because Atlanta made some interesting moves, particularly in terms of special teams. They signed punter Jake Bailey to a 3-year, $9 million deal, $5 million guaranteed. And unfortunately, the Falcons also signed former New York Jet Nick Folk to a 2-year deal as well. I mean, Guy, I'm sure you're agreeing with me that this is a good move for them considering their kicking struggles last year. Yeah. That was horrendous. I couldn't believe it. They couldn't have any more worse luck. Very unfortunate for the Jets to lose Nick Folk. He was damn near perfect last year, and a lot of the reason why the New York Jets even had points on the board. So I think the Falcons got away with a steal there. Definitely addressed a specific need, and a need that like special teams in those type of positions, I feel like are always better sometimes through free agency, and not necessarily through like the draft, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Unless they're like a special, like kicker that comes around every like decade. But Nick Folk was arguably your best player last year.
Thank you. And unfortunately, Brown D. Aaron, we lost Nick Folk. No, sorry to ruin the good time. Yes, unfortunately, I think that news happened yesterday, but not what I wanted to happen either. Hate to see him go. New York Jets lost Quincy Williams to the Browns. Nick Folk, AVT. Michael Clemens was signed, though no one is sad to see his ass go. And they also lost John Simpson as well. Johnny Boy, are we drafting a kicker? Drafting that kicker from Michigan. We're not going to waste a pick on a kicker right now. That's what we're not going to do. McNamara is going to go ahead and start kicking everything. I think the Jets they signed a kicker. They signed that Cade York guy is who the New York Jets signed. Not enthusiastic about that, I might add.
No.
All right. Let's go to the Saints for a second because the Saints picked up Etienne. I think that's how you say his name. I always do it wrong. From the Jags. 4 years, $52 million, I think. What do you think this means for Kamara?
I mean, I think that means he's done. His days are numbered in New Orleans. It's time to go in a different direction. And not to say that he hasn't had a great run with the Saints.
Right.
He has. But, he's been there for a while. You kind of want to go in a different direction. Etienne has been very good. Last year, we saw how good he was with the Jaguars. Obviously, they had another very good running back, so they could afford to let him go. But I think Etienne, going down there to New Orleans is going to be very good for him. He's going to get a lot of touches. He's going to kind of stabilize that offense, which quite frankly look good at the end of the year. Not saying that they were world beaters, but they were playing a good brand of football towards the end of the season, and they were in a lot of games.
Mm-hmm. No, and unfortunately, I think that I'm right there with you. I think it means the same thing for him. I'm not saying he won't get picked up somewhere else. Maybe a change of scenery will do him some good. But when you invest that much in a running back, I mean, you kind of point to the obvious. And again, some of these guys want to get a lot more touches. They don't want to share. I hated that last season. We saw so many of the quarterbacks, the running backs sharing carries, and it affected us as fans in terms of like betting. We're like, dude, we don't know who you're going to use today. You know what I mean? Who's going to pop off today? And with injuries, of course, so when that happens, obviously we saw what happened with like Seattle and stuff like that. You obviously had that insurance there, and it worked out for Seattle in Seattle's case, simply because Kenneth Walker wasn't as heavily used. But I think most running backs, because they know their span in term of the NFL is, they got a different window because of the amount of hits that they're taking. They want to get the most that they can while they're young too, I might add. I want to talk to you about Breece Hall for a second. I know we talked about him getting franchise tagged, but Breece Hall was very active on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Come free agency, and he made it very known that there seems to be a lot of money in Florham Park. And none going his way. I want to know, just since you're not a Jets fan, what your overall thoughts about that is.
Well, I mean, I think if they wanted to, they would have invested in him already. This is just foreshadowing that they're going to get rid of him, or they're going to let him walk next year. Sure, you could franchise him and kind of see what happens, but I think that they're ready to move on from him, quite frankly. And he kind of feels it. If you were wanted somewhere and, you kind of would have already been locked up, I think that just this non-committal attitude that the Jets have toward him is just, I think he has one foot out the door, to be honest with you.
Right. And the thing that irks me, I went back and forth in my group chat, and we didn't have like similar opinions, and that's absolutely fine. But I literally said Breece Hall can shut up right now. Okay. Because for multiple reasons, I understand his frustration. Trust me, I get it. And no player likes being franchise tagged. Okay. You're also making over $14 million this year. So chill out, because that's more than some of these other running backs that are being signed are making. Okay. So you're making I think he's still like one of the higher paid running backs in the league with the franchise tag right now. The thing about what makes me mad is, at the end of the day, don't you want to win football games? You're not going to win any football games with that nightmare of a defense that you had last year. It doesn't matter how good this offense can possibly be. When that defense, if you put that defense out with all them holes, they're going to cost you games. And that's it. And so in my head, I'm like, we got you taken care of right now temporarily because we couldn't come to a long-term agreement. That doesn't mean your money isn't coming, but let's figure out this defense first, because there's several holes. And I feel like as of right now, the New York Jets have addressed a lot of them. What I don't like about him is that is not captain-like, that is not leader-like, and it pisses me off. And so if you're going to, trust me, I get his frustration. I absolutely do, from like a player perspective, but from a fan, stop it. It's a bad look, and you're just causing like unnecessary drama. And now you're seeming like are you going to be one of those issues in the locker room right now? Because that's what we don't need. We absolutely don't need that. And and the thing is, it just makes me mad, because I feel like his time may come. We may give him a long-term deal. Who knows? He could be traded. I don't know. It was very frustrating to see that, simply because I don't like how that, I know he's frustrated, because I know Sauce, I think him and Sauce were really close. So you've lost several of those guys in the locker room. But yeah, I didn't like seeing that. Johnny Boy, all the former Love is Blind people are at the reunion. Yes, because after 10 seasons, they brought some of the OGs back. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch like seasons 5 to 7, I believe. I took a little bit of a break because it worked the first time because no one knew what it was, the experiment. And then people started going in there for the wrong reasons. So, okay, do you feel like we covered everything, or is there something you think I'm missing?
I was going to ask you, what did you think about the Bills getting DJ Moore?
It's fine. I didn't. Again, we talked about how much does it move the needle. I'm like, oh, a little like this way, a little. You know what I mean? I understood it, but you also just have you already have 2 good tight ends over there, and I don't know. The problem is, I think they needed to invest in someone because I don't know what's going to be happening with Keon Coleman at this point since their owner decided to pretty much throw him under the bus. Yeah. And so I kind of feel like they needed to make a move on somebody. But again, it's also hard too because they're just stacked they're stacked in several of the positions with the offense. I don't feel like their offense was necessarily the problem last season. It was their defense that was lacking. And at the end of the day, when you have someone like Josh Allen as quarterback, it doesn't matter who you're throwing to, he's going to get it to you. I think he's just that dynamic of a player. But Shaq said in here, Bills got no excuses not to win the AFC East next season. I'm sorry. And exactly, you're right. But we saw how that worked out last season too. I don't know. Some of me just thinks their window is very weird to me. It's kind of like, I thought it was like closing and now it's kind of a little more open, but I like I said, it doesn't move the needle that much. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I don't think it moves the needle either. Sure, I think they got it more so for the optics, right? It's like, right. Oh, he doesn't have a number 1 receiver. Okay, you get him when to Shaq's point. It's like, now, not just the Bills don't have any excuses. Josh Allen doesn't have any excuses not to perform in the playoffs. Like, this is you getting DJ Moore for the playoffs, and right. Whoever they match up with, sure, the Bills are either going to win the division or be a wild card team. That's just how the AFC is. But I still don't think that pushes them into that next level of Super Bowl contender or winner. I think he has to be a little smarter with the football in order for that to work.
Exactly. And it just doesn't make that much of a difference. And because also too, the moves that the Patriots are making, you haven't put yourself above the Patriots right now. And I'm only using the Patriots as an example simply because they won the division last year. So that's the whole goal is I don't think they want to be a wild card. You want to win the division. You know what I mean? That's what you're trying to do. And you're trying to get that first round bye type of action. I don't think that puts you in a place to do any of those things. The Buffalo was it was so hard to watch them last year. I mean, I'm saying last season, but we all know I mean like February of what it seems like forever ago if you're a Jets fan because we've been out of competition for a while. But it was a hard Denver game. You know what I mean? But I was really rooting for them. But to be honest, I knew this wasn't going to be their year. I thought their year was a couple of years ago. What is Johnny Boy saying? Let's go Jets. We're not saying go Mets over here. No, we're not. Mets. Is going to have a baseball team? Yeah, and Ketel Marte knocked a homer out of the park today. Yeah.
So did Soto, to be fair.
Peace and grace. I know, and I'm like, not even for our country, by the way. Not Dominican Republic roster is like a stacked, just absolutely stacked. I love seeing Alec Thomas with Mexico too, and the World Baseball Classic as well. If Bo Nix wasn't so shaky, the Bills would have been blown out. Exactly.
Yep.
We talked about this plenty of times Denver playing down to their opponent. It needs to be actually studied. It's mind boggles me how they should have been blowing some of these teams out of the water. And to be honest, let's go back a second. Do you think Denver would have put up a better fight against Seattle than the Patriots?
I mean, I think anybody would have had a better shot against the Seahawks, right? Like the Patriots to me went on a lucky run. Denver missing Bo Nix was a big loss to them. But the AFC to me isn't on the same level as the NFC.
Right.
NFC is deep. It's got a lot of stronger teams. So the AFC was just like whoever was the best out of the bunch is or the healthiest. Because it could have been argued if the Chargers were fully healthy or the Houston Texans were fully healthy, they would have beat them too. And I actually thought the two weakest teams in the AFC were the AFC East teams. Because I think now, especially going into this year, Jacksonville is getting better. Houston's going to bounce back. Getting Singletary was a very good pickup for them.
And they just signed Hunter again to like a 1 year, $40 million extension there too. That defense is consistently still getting better. They're making moves on defense still. Offense, they got to figure out their quarterback issue, but
yeah. But at least they addressed their running back,
Right.
Singletary was a pretty solid pickup for them. And he's going to be running with a chip on his shoulder, I think, at least for this first season. Because, he was playing second fiddle to Gibbs. And, of course, Gibbs is the better of the two. But Montgomery's not a slouch either.
Right. Guy, I was going to ask you, Brown D. Aaron asked, do you know why the Dolphins didn't get any compensatory?
Compensatory?
Yeah. That's how you know it's been a long day.
Not really.
I don't know how that works sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think their main concern was just getting the books, back on track. That salary cap was destroyed. Had a lot of high price guys. Tua and Tyreek Hill. Even Minka was set to make about $15 million.
Yeah.
So, why even have a guy like that if we're rebuilding? So I rather get young at those positions and kind of retool there. But I think getting that salary cap back on track is just as good as getting a compensatory pick.
Right. You guys are just in the hole and you kind of already expected this. So just like we expected the Jets to be spending because we knew they had endless money, you guys already know what that money was going to look like because where it was invested in these certain players. And unfortunately, those players just didn't work out.
Right.
So Shaq also says AFC South about to be a demolition derby. Then Shaq, you weren't. I don't know if you were on before, but we were talking about some of the moves those teams have been making, and they made it a lot more interesting. I'll put it, or I'll say it like that. Any other? Did we miss anything? I'm sure we missed a bunch of stuff, but
yeah.
I know the Bengals made some moves, of course, on defense. They signed that edge to what's his name? Boy, how do you say his last name? Mafe? I think it's Mafe.
Mafe too, but
okay. Yeah. People correct me all the time. I'm like, you know who I'm talking about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
3-year, $60 million deal. They also got Cook as well. For a 3-year, $40.25 million deal as well. But I don't necessarily know that the defense was their problem with the Bengals. You should be worried about trying to protect Joe Burrow.
Yeah, that's well, I mean, their defense was definitely bad too.
Yeah.
But I get your point. They definitely needed a better offensive line. But again, we're saying the same thing every year about the Bengals. Their defense sucks and their offensive line sucks.
Yeah.
But we should have been more. We wouldn't have been surprised if they would have invested more money in the receiver room, which they just keep trying to do. Like, their offense is fine from the skill position standpoint.
Right.
You need to build in the damn trenches, and you just let your best sack artist go too, which is going to fill a big void on defense. So I don't know. Like, Joe Burrow is a very good quarterback, but I'm not really high on the Bengals right now.
I know. And the thing is, you're just going to keep putting out the same product out there. Yes, you have all these playmakers. That's not what's necessarily costing you games. And at the end of the day, your quarterback not being able to stay healthy at this point is the main issue. So you would think that you would recognize it at this point. And that division ain't getting any easier. You still always play the same other 3 teams that you do every single year. And we know the product that those defenses put out. So it's like, dude.
It's going to be a long year.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. And I'm sure it's also frustrating for Joe Burrow, too. Joe Burrow, when, with the Max Crosby thing, there was that meme of him on the couch and like the 3. It was like Crosby. Who else was up there? Like right behind him, like all their DNs from each team. And like, that couldn't have been a more accurate picture. Something's funny if my brother is sending it to me. And that's the only thing he sent me. Joe Burrow was about to go through it again with Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, and Hendrickson. Yeah, and Hendrickson, he's like, he's familiar with Joe Burrow too. So he's like, he knows how he operates even more. So you just gave him one up there too. Yeah, put Joe Burrow. If the Jets, if they want to trade him all their picks in the 2027 draft, I'll go ahead and take him.
Okay. So, I wasn't asked you. Would you do that?
Oh, yeah. I would trade my life away for Joe Burrow. Are you kidding? I wasn't even talking. I remember someone asked me, and I'm like, yes, he's a generational type of quarterback. Absolutely, I would do that. And then we have a better O-line. And like I said, I feel like Joe Burrow is also one of those people that can do a lot. Like, it's similar to what I mentioned with Josh Allen. I feel like they can do a lot with a little. They don't need to have these star crazy receivers. He just needs to be able to get them the ball, which I absolutely think he can. But yeah, I remember when that whole conversation came up. Yeah, I would trade away my first round picks this year. Yeah, go ahead. And then give him some money.
He's a proven commodity too, right? And right from day one, he would be, you would be getting production. It's not like you would have to wait on a project or a draft pick to develop. You would be getting him in his prime. I guess he's still in his prime, or would be next year, right? Like, health has been an issue for him, but that's in part because of that shitty offensive line.
Right. And then Radio Shack says Broadway Joe Volume 3. There are some. So let me go back to like AVT for a second. There are some players, and Joe Burrow is probably one of these players as well. I don't have any like actual proof. So this is all just like my whole thoughts. But sometimes I feel like their teams are the whole reason they have been injury prone. And I'll focus more on AVT, of course. It's because he shifted to every single goddamn position on that O-line. And he had the freakiest injuries. He tore his Achilles. I remember we lost him the same game that we lost Breece Hall. And then he ended up tearing his triceps as well. And it's because he was center. He was guard. Then they had him on tackle. Then they had him on the left side. Then they moved him back to the right side because they couldn't get their, that was the year we went through like 30 different rotations for the O-line. And I truly blame the New York Jets a little bit. Again, no proof, but I think the shifting has something to do with all these freak injuries. I don't think that happens. That's what I'm saying. Watch him go to the Patriots and be like an all-pro next year. That's exactly how it's going to happen. And I'm going to laugh. The same thing with Joe Burrow. I'm not him not having an O-line, I think has caused some of the injuries, like toe turf, really. This dude finds ways to get hurt in the smallest of ways. And I get it. Your toe affects the whole way that you throw the ball and function as a quarterback. But compared to an ACL tear or something else, it's smaller and less like insignificant compared to those type of things.
But
But
true, it's going to a quarterback though. So like if anything is off,
yeah.
that definitely could throw his production off too.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. So give him an O-line and it would be better. All righty. Do you want to talk about the World Baseball Classic a little?
Sure.
I don't know. Where do you want to start? I've been following it, mind you. I'm just like I'm watching it and but like today it was on like when I'm driving home and stuff like that. So it's hard for me to like keep up. But I did watch the US and Mexico the other day. I did see what happened with Italy upsetting the US. And then why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about Puerto Rico for a second?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to shout out all the host nations that did a great job. San Juan was great. It was lively. Um, the people supported, you know, the Puerto Rican team, even though they weren't at full strength. They were missing a lot of key guys. But the thing is that with Puerto Rico, especially because we are the smallest participant in population, but there's this chemistry that we have when we come together that we make things happen. And a lot of people have written us off. And I'm not saying that Puerto Rico is going to win the whole thing. I don't think they have the depth to do that. But I could see them going to the semifinals, which is great without having Lindor, Correa, Baez, Kike Hernandez. Like these are key pieces to what could have been a better run. But despite all that, I'm proud of how they played and the small ball, good fundamentals, pitching and defense, kind of like the old school formula of how to play a clean game. And I'll say that this about the Latin American countries in general, the passion that
Thank
they play
you.
with, the fans being so engaged in the game, they're showing the American audience that baseball is not boring. You made it boring by how you view the game as it to be taken so serious. It's not meant to be taken that serious. It's supposed to be full of passion and suspense and joyous, and every pitch matters. And when you do something like, it's when you have that camaraderie, and there's something about it when you put your country's uniform on that it really exudes the pride and passion of the game. And they're showing us how baseball really should be played.
And I'm glad you pointed that out because it's crazy when you're watching the game on TV and you hear a crowd erupt. It's funny because it's not that overly crowded. It's just the fans are that passionate and like that loud that I can hear it through the screen. And it's not, you would think it was like a sold out crowd, literally. And I'm glad you pointed out that passion. And you can see, one thing I love seeing is everyone with their flags out and everything. Like it's kind of like the Olympics a little bit. You really rep your country during this time. And again, it's a little more intimate with the World Baseball Classic because, like you said, these other countries have used it. It is supposed to be fun at the end of the day. And you're right, to some extent, the U.S. has made it boring, and because now it's become a money thing too. Everything boils down to that, a money and a political thing. And a lot of the reason I like baseball, okay? It's not my favorite sport right now. I know a lot of people are watching the World Baseball Classic, and I can tell you right now, yeah, I'm focusing on Selection Sunday and March Madness and all the other like tournaments right now. So that's where my brain is going. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I don't like baseball. I've been paying attention enough, but again, it's just like, oh yay, Aaron Judge hit a home run again. It's like, oh, again, Dodgers win the World Series, which I'm predicting again this year. So I guess that's why it is nice to watch these games because you have that whole different aspect that I don't normally see on any other given day. And MLB, like your regular games, they show like the primetime games on MLB Sunday or whatever they call it.
Now imagine every game, every Major League Baseball game had this energy and vibe.
Oh yeah.
How big it would be.
Yeah, and you just don't get that. I feel like you get that from certain teams, but that's because of the franchises that they have behind them, like Dodgers, Yankees, those type of franchises. I mean, obviously, I'm speaking from an Arizona Diamondbacks fan. You don't get that when you go to Chase Field. I'll be very honest. And I love going to D-backs games, though. I absolutely do. I love the run that they had like a few years ago, but I mean, I go to like hang out. I mean, I know the players on my team and I enjoy those players. Like I love Marte, I love Guriel, I Alec Thomas I mentioned, and it's nice to see them with their home teams because I feel like it brings out like a different version of them, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%. And that's why I was saying yesterday towards the end of the last episode, this is a showcase of how other people interpret and play the game and how they add to the beauty of the sport. Just the way that Dominican, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Venezuela, Mexico, United States, Japan, like all different philosophies and styles, but they show what is the determining factor, the common denominator. It's the fun element. It's the Chinese Taipei or Taiwan. I love their energy in the 2023 World Baseball Classic where everybody was doing like some dance in the stands and like they made it like crowd participation and it was fun and interactive. Like MLB could learn things from this. And I think the American fan and the owners of these MLB franchises look to this and say, how can we implement it to have a better product live and on TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, Mexico. I said this to people that I know, and I don't know how they took it, but I said Mexico to me is a better baseball country than soccer country right now, and I think the strides
I
that
think that's
they've
valid.
made, yeah, the strides that they've made in baseball, even though they lost and they're out in the first round this time, the talent pool has jumped, and a lot of that has to do with the World Baseball Classic. Like Mexico wasn't really known for being like a baseball producing country, but yeah, now you have to take them serious. That they're actually a really good team, and they produce really good players, and that's another thing that gets showcased. A team like Italy coming out of nowhere and beating the dream team, best United States team ever. And anytime you put those labels on teams, it's like the Titanic. You didn't think it was going to sink, but it did. Not saying that they won't win it all, but that's why we play the game.
Right.
We don't compare rosters. You got to go out there and execute. And shout out to Italy for making history and watch Italy become a baseball producing nation too.
No, yeah. And it's funny. I also loved Italy having like an espresso machine in their dugout.
Oh, who doesn't like espresso, right? Like, give me a
Literally.
double.
And they got the good stuff. Like it's funny, like the best espresso I've had has been in Italy and in Cuba too. Like
No,
I was
yeah,
drinking coffee black in Cuba just because of how good and fresh it was. You know what I mean?
that's how you got to
So
do it.
mhm. But see, and the thing with the World Baseball Classic is you have these underdog stories. You're not going to have that in like the World Series. You're not going to have that in the MLB period. It just, you already know, like we already knew from early on, like I'm just using an example, like the Rockies were going to be bad.
Yeah,
And that was it. And everyone just kind of writes them off. And the same thing with like NBA too, a little bit. Early who's just like trying to tank and do whatever, and they just completely exit out, and it doesn't make it fun. Doesn't make
yeah.
it fun whatsoever. So, what did Shaq say? Italy is a dark horse in the quarterfinals, and they'll definitely give Puerto Rico problems.
They definitely could. That's not an easy game by any stretch. It's gonna come down to the fine margins, who executes better. But
Mm-hmm.
I think not getting the United States in that quarterfinal, I'd rather play Italy. Respectfully, I'd rather play Italy than the United States.
Right. And he also says Canada was a hell of an underdog story in itself. That too.
Yeah, yeah. And they're going to be an underdog because they're going to be playing the United States right off the rip. So they're going to have to get on that run, that Cinderella run that they've been on. And they have a good team too. Just like I said about Italy, Canada has been producing a lot of good players as well. So can they pull off the upset? Why not? Crazier things have happened.
Right. Speaking of crazy, Bam Adebayo
Bam!
yesterday. You could not believe it. I got home and I looked and I'm like, this is because I got an alert too on like Yahoo. I'm signing up for multiple alerts through every single site, but Yahoo pinged me. It was like on the verge of breaking Kobe's record. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And I look and I mean, obviously he did. Congratulations. What we were talking a little bit about it in the beginning, but just what an accomplishment and someone we didn't expect it from either.
No.
What was it? How many free throws? Like 43?
Yeah, he attempted 43 and made 36, both of which are records, NBA records.
That is insane.
And
absolutely insane.
I shout him out because he's from my hometown of Newark, New Jersey. So like I have to salute a fellow Brick City native to do what he does. But I'll say this though. The way that they were going about him getting those 83, they weren't forcing the issue.
Right.
And that was kind of like, and I'm not trying to diminish 83 points. Getting that much in a basketball game is extremely hard. Like, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? But, they were intentionally fouling so they could get more possessions. Like that, they were up by 25, like they were destroying the Wizards. And I get it. He's trying to make history, but he was 7 for 22 in 3-pointers, right? He attempted 22 3-pointers. This guy is not a 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Like at least with the Kobe game, a lot of his shots came more in the flow of his game and the offense. This kind of felt forced a little bit, which is my only criticism of it all.
Mm-hmm. Radio Shack says Bam had a wild performance and he's a center. That is also a good point. Had 3 more free throw attempts in one game than SGA did in his first 2 games of the season, 40. You know who's also like kind of like speaking of like SGA and just the free throw attempts. Last week, just to transition a little to college basketball, AJ DeBonza kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Like he's just a free throw magnet, to be honest. And I still said at the end of the day, like he's one of the better freshmen in the country, and I think he's completely 100% NBA ready. You know what I mean? But I also want to point that out about him, that sometimes I don't know if he would be like that given how many times there's always a foul called on him. And I've seen it, considering that U of A has played them twice. So I've seen enough BYU basketball at that point. Let me see. Is that it? Well, obviously we're in the middle of championship week with college basketball. Selection Sunday is coming up. We've already had several teams punch their ticket to the tournament, which we love to see. And that's kind of going a little bit back to my point of like the World Baseball Classic, that excitement. You get these small teams that haven't been to the tournament ever. Hofstra is back in it for the first time in like a quarter of a century. And so you have these teams and these stories like that automatically make it more exciting. You know what I mean? And that's what I kind of love about how college basketball is formatted, because you win the tournament and you're in. And that gives anyone just the same equal opportunity. Obviously, I want to talk about the Big 12 tournament a little. And U of A will play tomorrow. U of A will play UCF. who I think they usually should win. I think they're 16.5-point favorites at that point in time. But either way, U of A's #1 seed easily. So they're heading to most likely, I think it's the first set of games is in like California, like San Diego and San Jose, I believe on that side. So I'm excited though for Selection Sunday. We're going to see where a lot of these teams are gonna end up. I'll obviously see U of A's path to hopefully what is a national championship. I'm excited again for the Big East. The Big East has some good matchups coming up in their tournament as well. I believe you have Providence and someone else facing off against each other
today. I think
was that today?
I think they played Butler, if I'm not mistaken. They won.
Let me see. What do we got tomorrow? Everything's going on tomorrow. Providence and St. John's. There we go. That's what I was tomorrow. At 9 a.m. That's crazy. 9 a.m. on Peacock. You got Iowa
everybody's playing.
Yeah. Iowa State and Texas Tech should be a good matchup there as well. You have Auburn, Tennessee, BYU, Houston. That's another good matchup. And Xavier plays UConn tomorrow. And Kansas and UNC will also play. Iowa State demolished Arizona State. Yes, they did. And bye-bye, Bobby Hurley. Your tenure with the Sun Devils has come to an end. Oh, no, how sad. Gene, this one's for you because, he's my favorite coach. I know, Gene all teasing me. But Shaq, Queens University, Long Island University are both in the tournament. See? You love to see it. These, small schools that you haven't even heard from. This is March Madness is when legends are literally made.
100%. And recently too, I remember the St. Peter's team that
oh my God
went on that run, right?
Yeah.
15 seed.
Mm-hmm. And I loved even NC State. I forget his name, but that big guy they had for NC State. And I'm just this dude is just a monster. He's huge. He's over 200 pounds and he's running up and down the court, shooting shots, and they had a good run there. I don't know if this year, because of how good the 1 seeds are, if we're gonna see so many of those I don't want to call it Cinderella, you know what I mean? But just for lack of a better word right now, some of those Cinderella teams making it, past more the Sweet 16 or things like that. I think the top 10 is stacked all in itself. And again, these 1 seeds are some of the best and have some of the best freshmen in the country. We talked about it. This freshman class is just absolutely stacked.
It is, but in the tournament though, an experienced team could beat a young freshman laden team. That's why I said that St. Peter's team that made the run, they were experienced and they had good chemistry. And I remember when they beat Kentucky had a lot of freshmen. They were, a top, 10 team. But if they all start having a bad game at the same time, who is going to rein them back in? You know what I'm saying? That you always want one guy that's been there and is a leader on the team. And not saying that you can't win with a freshman-laden team. However, they could get susceptible to, maybe in the Sweet 16, you get knocked off. When you're up against a comparable competition.
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny? I know let me just speak about the Big 12 because the Big 12 is one of the best. I think it's not an argument that it's one of the best conferences in college basketball right now. It's kind of a good thing that it's a good thing and a bad thing that these teams all have to play each other because here you are right before the tournament. You have the Big 12 tournament and you're going up some of these big, heavy defensive teams. But then I feel like you have a little bit of a break until the actual NCAA tournament starts. But then you're also you could use more of a break because you just, again, got done facing some of the best teams in the country right now. So sometimes I feel like you're a little worn down at the same time. You're prepared, but also worn down from depending on where you played them in the season as well. I think it goes both ways.
100%. And I guess it depends on the team itself. Because with UConn, when they've won, the Big East tournament is very physical, and it
Mhm.
definitely prepares you for the tournament. And I think the Big 12 conference tournament could do similar things where, yeah, you might get beat up, but it's a grind. That's how March Madness is. It's win and survive and win, survive and advance. And you're going to have to take travel into account and going into cities that you never been in and not having the home support that you're comfortable with. Like, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and
Mhm.
just really gathering the troops, pulling the same direction. And this is where chemistry really matters.
Mhm. And luckily, U of A has it in their favor that they're playing in California. So, there's tons of Arizona grads, Arizona alum already in California. And you best believe Arizona fans are just going to travel. I mean, it's just a short either plane ride or you can even make the drive up there as well. So that's one thing they have in their favor. So, yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, too, because maybe it is a good thing at the same time that you're not getting that break,
Yeah.
because you just got done facing a tough team like Houston, Iowa State, BYU, Arizona, Kansas. The list goes on for the Big 12. The Big 12 will have like 8 teams. I think the ACC will have like 8 teams as well. But I don't know. I'm getting excited though. It's gonna be that time of year, and I always love first day brackets busted.
Yeah, there's nothing like that first day, that Thursday of. I mean, the playing games sometimes are really good too, but
Mhm.
that first day at like noon over here, probably 9 o'clock over
Yeah,
there,
9 a.m.
where everything just starts happening, and there's like 12, 13 hours of just college basketball straight through, right? And it's just like madness, like they say. 4 different channels have games on simultaneously, and it's really good because now you're seeing like the stories develop. And that's to your point about it being compared to the World Baseball Classic. It's like a short adrenaline rush of like
Right. There we go.
exciting, Cinderella stories, but we're also seeing like the best teams take care of business and how they stack up with everybody else. This is a very exciting time of the year, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds.
Yeah. Shaq says, interested to see where each Big 12 heavyweight will fall in March Madness, especially if multiple teams are in the same region. Yeah, and stay tuned. I'm gonna have a video about this, but I didn't really I was just familiarizing with myself with how the committee goes about ranking everybody and placing everybody. And there are certain rules in terms of if you're in the same bracket as someone in your conference, you can't play them until a certain spot because it's like to protect the credibility of it all. Like if you face them, like I think it's like 2 times in the season, you can't face them before X round and things like that. So no, that'll definitely be very interesting. And I don't want it to come down to something like that because that would just drive me nuts because you never know how those games are going to go, especially if it's going to be on like a neutral turf. So very excited. But yeah, it's like a short adrenaline rush off for it to be like, okay, now we're done. But where I am at work, I have one screen, and my job knows better than to tell me anything about that. But Johnny Boy's back in. But I'll have one screen, and it'll have 4 games on. Boom, 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 boom. And then I'm like, oh, let me turn on TNT. Let me turn it on True TV. Let me turn it on TBS. It's like, and then I have one on my phone, and they know how I am. They just leave it. I'm like, shh.
Yeah.
Arizona will even be playing, and I'll still have it on. Johnny Boy, Nick Lachey is going in on this reunion. And Radio Shack says, I remember a time when there was one channel to watch all the men's games. What a wild time there
Yeah.
was.
CBS had it all at one time.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, and did you watch, let me ask, did you watch the UFC fight this weekend?
No, I didn't get a chance to.
It was very confusing because it was on like a CBS Paramount type of like dual thing. And then all of a sudden CBS went to, for the main fight, to Dateline. And I'm like, but I didn't even get to see the main card. So I watched all the preliminary rounds. There were some good matchups there as well. But I don't know if you had caught that at all. But did you have a rant this week? I kind of did
Um,
mine. I'm all over the place.
I mean, I kind of do. It's just a reminder, kind of a thing. Kind of to deal with the Bam Adebayo thing. I think a lot of people downplay the impact that Wilt Chamberlain had on the NBA. 83 is amazing, but 100 points like this, we should still take into perspective of like what that is. We're looking at a Bam Adebayo game, but he hit 7 threes. Back in Wilt's day, they didn't have a 3-point shot. So
Mhm.
you would had to score 100 either at the free throw line or somewhere a 2-point shot was anywhere else on the floor. So I know a lot of our audience, I probably bet 100% of our audience doesn't remember or wasn't alive at the time when Wilt Chamberlain did this and scored 100 points. But he lived in New York at the time and had to drive to Philly to take the team bus to Hershey, Pennsylvania, which is like an hour to maybe 2 hour drive, a bus ride. So there was no planes or nothing like that. So just put that in perspective of all the travel that he had to do leading up to the game to drop 100 on the New York Knicks and then catch a ride with them back to New York where he lived like a G, and then they party together because he owned like a bar or nightclub in Harlem, so like he was in the mix, right? So I think we salute Bam, but I wanted to make sure, especially for our younger listeners, that Will Chamberlain is the most overlooked superstar in the history of sports because they always, ESPN is guilty of this a lot. They'll say a record and they'll say as of, 1976 or as of 1980, whatever. And they kind of try to erase him from the history books. They said, oh, Bam Adebayo is going to break Kobe's record, but Kobe has the second best record.
Right.
Like, I get it. You're gonna move into second place, but Will Chamberlain has that record, and he had the record for most 50-point games, most 60-point games, most 70-point games, and in the top 10 scoring list of single games, he's on it like 4 times or 5 times. Like, we forget how great he is, and not to diminish Bam, but to look at the perspective of how hard it is. Even if you're playing against kids, are you going to score 100 points against like 5-year-old girls? Maybe
No,
not, right?
no.
No, because a lot has to go right. And, you know, I I just want the people to know that before the new age basketball game where it's like 3-pointers and everything like that, it was a grind and it was hard. It was a more physical brand of basketball. So to put up 100 is with no 3-point shot is not even something that we can comprehend.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to salute the late legend Will Chamberlain on that.
And I'm glad you pointed that out too, because all I saw yesterday was more references to Kobe. And
Exactly.
I feel like I just heard nothing about it. You know what I mean? Until I saw it in like an order, and I'm like, oh, why didn't you put it this way to begin with? You're making a big deal that he overpassed Kobe for second, but it's not like all time. You know what I mean? So,
Exactly. And that's why I said like he's the most hated superstar as well because they always kind of try to diminish what he did. That there was a year he averaged 50 points a game in a season.
that's
Nobody's
fucking
touching that.
crazy.
Nobody
That's fucking
is
crazy.
even going. He had 55 rebounds in a game too. Like who's even getting close to that? And he did that against Bill Russell. He's not doing that against a chump. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like we have to salute all the greats that came before. And I get it. The new audience knows Kobe. So like, oh, Kobe, oh, he got
Right. And I get why they want to reference him all the time, but it's like you can't ignore the whole history of basketball because there's a long-standing history of it.
100%.
So, Johnny boy, if you're still on, I did not see the Ronda Rousey going in about UFC and Dana White, and everyone's always saying something about Dana White, so I'm honestly not surprised. Did you see the fight at the White House is actually going to be happening in June? Over the summer. I can't believe that that's like a thing. I will watch it. That's the sad part because that's a good card.
Yeah.
But that's the only reason. I'm just like, but what are we? I've never seen this happen. UFC at the White House. This is just absolutely nuts.
Well, we seen Trump at some UFC events before.
Right.
So I know he's a fan at least. So
yeah.
I don't know.
We've seen him at some like football games. I thought he was at a Commanders game one time.
Yeah, I think so. And wasn't he at like a Thanksgiving game or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I just saw this stat right now. Bam scored more points than the New York Jets did in 2025. Is this a thing?
Oh man.
That is just nuts.
Yikes.
That was like the cherry on top of your whole spiel.
Yeah.
Relating NBA back to the New York Jets. That's what I'm saying. Are these fans not sick of the mockery that we have going on here? It's never enough. You don't want to stop being the doormat of the NFL?
I know, and that's why I get when you say that you want to win. So that narrative changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
and some people, and I think I mentioned this last week too, people mentioning like the culture and certain players not matching the culture. What culture? What culture?
Culture.
That's what I'm saying. Like what culture is there established here? There is none. It ain't a winning one. I can tell you that much. So I don't know. And you would think that bringing sometimes winning players into the organization would change things, and no, it doesn't matter. I don't have a rant. I kind of basically said it with the whole Geno stuff. But I will shout out the Arizona Wildcats again, like I always do, because I'm going to force it down your throats. Because no one talks about them enough. But obviously Big 12 regular season champs, and I'm hoping that they're Big 12 tourney champs as well. So again, playing UCF. And we will go from there, one game at a time. A lot of good sports happening this weekend. Another good slate and another good show, guy. So we'll hopefully have Sean back next week. And again, we're just getting started with the free agency frenzy, as I like to call it. But catch us every Wednesday, 9:30 Eastern. And thanks for joining us. And subscribe to the channel. Please hit the like and subscribe. All right. Bye.